All right, good afternoon. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure that there'll be other people joining us. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Prentiss Jackson. I'm one of your co-chairs for today. Alysha Shugart will be also the other co-chair. We'll do introductions in a minute. First, I wanted to acknowledge this workshop. It is the Rubin Hiring Recipe Workshop. And this is a continuation from the work that was done last year. A lot of people have contributed to the recipes at this point. So I want to acknowledge the team that has been working ever since last year to get us to this point. This will be an interactive workshop. So hopefully we get more people. You will be asked to participate if you choose to do so. Hopefully you will. But we need your input. We need your participation. Just a reminder, I know we've been saying this at every workshop, but we want to make sure that everyone does adhere to the policies here. Harassment and unprofessional conduct is not acceptable. If you have any questions or concerns, these are your contacts. Also, respecting people's contact preference. They will have a sticker on, so please respect that. And it is day 4 of the conference, so I know a lot of people might be on that red. So please give people the time or the space if they need to recharge. Just a reminder about that. And those of you that are on Zoom, just a couple of reminders. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking. Alysha will be speaking momentarily. As we get through the session, as I mentioned before, will be interactive, and we will ask you to come up Zoom. And we do have a planned breakout session for the people that are virtual. And those of you in the room get to join me for fun in person. So a little bit about myself. I'm Prentiss Jackson. I am the NOIRLab's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Program Manager. I'm very, very new to the organization. As of March, I joined. Previous to that, I have spent 10 plus years in DEI space, namely Intel Corporation in Arizona. Also, I did some D&I work with AT&T in Florida. So I'm excited to be here today. I really excited to join this project because I think it's very valuable. Rubin is one of the premier places right now as far as astronomy, and we're doing a lot of hiring. So we are really excited to get your feedback and roll this out to help us make sure that we're hiring inclusively. So Alysha, you want to do your intro?
Sure, thanks, Prentiss. So my name is Alysha Shugart. My pronouns are she and they. I was the DEI officer at NOIRLab, but I've changed to a support role to support Prentiss, rolling out his strategies and a new vision for DEI at NOIRLab. And of course, this will heavily influence how we do things in Rubin operations. So my focus is kind of workplace culture improvement and in-reach activities at NOIRLab sites and some other spaces in the Rubin project. My other gig is that I am on the operations team, on the commissioning and operations team. So I'm down in Chile.
Thank you, Alysha.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about an overview of today's session. So I'll give a brief history of the Rubin Hiring Recipes project, talk about the work that we've done since the what was called the PCW is now the RCW of August 2023. And then I'll briefly review the goal of this session, and then we'll get primed and ready to divide into breakout groups. So I think there's some people in the room who could speak to this even better than I can, but a brief history of this project. So the Joint Operations Review Team, folks from NSF and the Department of Energy recommended to Rubin leadership I think it was in 2023 or maybe late 2022, that the Rubin project sponsored, develop, and release a universal set of guidelines to make gains in diverse hiring and to improve inclusive hiring across the project. The goal of this toolkit or recipes toolkit is to complement the knowledge and experience of the local HR departments and policies throughout the project, because we're a very complex project. We have partners from universities, partners from in-kind, partners from different institutions who have their own, and countries, of course, who have their own policies, own hiring guidelines. So what we want to do is complement that knowledge while also empowering hiring or recruitment members to be more intentional to find underrepresented talent. So the state of the project now, or the leadership team partnered with hiring managers in the project, of course, HR from Slack and from Aura, and as well as DEI professionals such as Prentiss and myself to draft this document for the toolkit. Our goal is to grow it into like a living resource with a web presence where you can dig deep and find complementary knowledge for each step of the recruitment process. Can you change slide, please? Yeah. So what we've done so far in August of 2023 at the project community workshop, or what was formerly known as the PCW, is now the RCW. We led a session called "What was your beef with the hiring process?" Beef essentially means problem. What's your friction with the hiring process? What are your issues with the hiring process? That session was pretty well attended, and we had a lot of early career folks in that session. And so we used that opportunity to directly incorporate the discussions held during those breakout sessions into our initial document. Here I list the breakout discussions that we covered during that session. So we talked about candidate recommendations, salary, barriers introduced by relocation, policies, or how to approach accessibility accommodations, things like that. Can you advance the slide, please? So all of that input went into this initial document, including the knowledge of some of Rubin's leadership and some very, very active hiring managers in the project. So we've assembled this large document, which is now in the alpha testing stage. We identified 7 people in addition to the team that wrote the original document to take it through in their various steps, wherever they are in a recruitment process or processes, to review the document and see if there's any gaps in knowledge or if there's any places that we can make more clear the information we presented. So we have 7 of these recruiters, and we're in the stage of gathering feedback and incorporating their suggestions. This is still an ongoing process at this time. We don't have an end date for these people to finish giving feedback, but we hope probably by mid to end August, we're going to end that first round of discussion. So the goal of this session, we would like to, because it was so beneficial last year, we would like to again form breakout groups and dive deeper into these theme discussions. And then the breakout sessions that we've designed today map directly to sections of the document that we've identified. So we really could use your help. There's more opportunities to contribute to this or to use this tool. So we hope to identify some folks for that effort as well. And I'll turn it back over to you, Prentiss.
All right, this is the interactive part. Audience participation. So what we came up with 6 what we're framing is priming questions to kind of get your juices flowing related to, the hiring and what we want to achieve from the session. What we'll do is I'm going to go through the questions and the themes, and then this will be audience participation. Alysha will be taking down notes from the content that we're going over now. After we go through the 6 themes, then we will do the breakout sessions. So as Alysha said, our intent is to make sure that we collect your feedback, and then we also gather it into the document, make the changes, and like Alysha said, we hope to get this closed out with the feedback and contributions by the end of August. So I know it is after lunch, but hopefully we'll get the juices flowing and we'll get interaction and kind of get everybody going a little bit. So the first primary question is how to write a job description. And then the question for the room is how would you write a job description to ensure you have more people that apply for the job? And that is an open-ended question.
You want people to jump in now?
Yeah.
I think I would include something about the broader impact of whatever the job is, because I think people get excited about the idea of changing the world. And I also think including the community aspect of the job, who you're working with, is it a team-based thing, is it not? I think now more than ever, people value their workplace relationships.
Yes.
And it would be an attractive thing to know that you're going to be interacting with people day to day and that you're going to be having some larger impact that's helping the world.
Can we do something? Can you share your name? So,
I'm Mary.
Mary, okay. And I know you, Bob, do you have your next?
No, I was gonna let, I talk all the time.
No,
I do what other people have to say, but I'll be happy to jump in when no one else does.
Amanda?
Yeah, I would just say it would be a not thing. Just don't make it more restrictive than it needs to be. So if you only really have 3 criteria that you're looking for, then just put those 3. And then everything else would potentially go in the preferred or whatever.
Alan is my name. So I like to see a focus on what the work is and not as much on how the work gets done. That tends to constrain a lot of applicants or something there.
I'm Christine. I think adding, I wanted to ask for education, such adding or equivalent experience helps.
Good point. Good point. Any other feedback from the room? Oh, okay.
I'm Giovanni. I think I will put as much as possible the requirement, but taking consideration that those requirements don't sound restrictable for the people, limited. And I'm more open to, as Mary say, showing the benefit of the organization in several areas of the DEI.
I'm gonna be inclusive. Is there anyone online that has any contributions to this question? Okay, well, feel free to jump in. Alysha, you captured the feedback?
Yeah, I did. No, I'm taking notes, so I appreciate the commentary so far. Let's keep it going. But for anyone online, yeah, I'm monitoring the chat and stuff like that. So if you'd prefer to write something down or speak up, just let me know and I'll call attention to the room.
I'll just add one more thing that I think it's very much aligned with all the good comments we've heard, which is we're trying to use language that lets people imagine that they could be in the job instead of seeing language that shows them that they shouldn't apply for the job or might make them feel like they can't apply for the job. A while ago, we had our great fortune to have Amanda Bauer as part of our team. She's moved on to bigger and better things, which is wonderful. But she was, I think, particularly attuned to this way of writing a job description. And the way she would write them is literally she would be saying, you are this, or you know, like as in I'm writing my application, I would be responding to this. And it was trying to show a vision that there's many different places where you might not have, people have different strengths and weaknesses, and the way she would write the job ad would draw those out so people could see themselves in the role, even, and they didn't have to see themselves against a checklist of I check this box, this box, this box, but I could see myself because I have this quality or I have that quality or ability or characteristic.
That's a great point. Great point. All right, any other input before we move to the next question? Thank you. All right, next, what is the worst thing you've encountered in a job description? Should be a lot of feedback on this one.
I know Red Powell.
That's
What was what we talked about?
Hi, my name's Josie. I think the most common thing I see is like unrealistic experience requirements. Probably the biggest, most common one I'm seeing.
Somebody else in the room has that. This is a good question. So anybody else in the room want to contribute to this one?
So this is not really like in a job description, but I've been told while trying to get the job sometimes, like, oh, but beware, this is mostly men, so it's like a very masculine environment. And if I want the job enough, I'm gonna apply anyways. But it could not be the case. It could be the case that I would be deterred from applying because maybe I'm afraid to be in that environment if I'm being told up for.
Your name was?
Amanda.
Amanda. Thank you, Amanda. Good. Yes.
Bob just reminded me, I'd actually forgotten. My name's Rampal. Specifically for job descriptions, talk about having to sit for 8 hours at a desk and things like that when, you know, standing desks have been invented. And just restrictive language like that almost immediately would turn, you know, anyone with a physical disability off when it's just really not. It's not a requirement. We put requirements that really aren't real requirements.
That's good.
Yeah.
Go here, then we'll go over here.
And I was gonna say the same thing right now. I'm glad you got a real example. But there's a lot of that. Driver's license required, but driving is not part of the job. Speaking in front of an audience when a person who uses sign language could get up and present just as well. So I think a hard look at what we think of as essential functions of the job is in order.
Great. And your name was?
Now.
Yeah, I think my university requires you to list all those things in the job description, but not in the job ad. All of the, like, for my job, people have to be able to lift a certain amount and have to be able to be at high elevations. But that's not part of the job ad, it's part of the job description.
Good, good. Anybody online want to contribute? I'm sure there's going to be that one question that everybody online is going to be.
So can I say one more thing? So I helped create U of A, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I helped create that. And it should be in the job
Oh,
description.
okay.
I'm not saying it is, but this is the point, is that I think it's important for hiring managers when they create that job description to identify those things. If working at elevation at Rubin is important, that should be in the job description for the sake of transparency. Right. And
That's
so,
true.
but that's what I kind of mean about
Yeah.
those matches. If driving at the summit is required, we shouldn't list driving. Right. But to really have supervisors think through what are those requirements. That's good.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Mainly about the first point, but I don't want to interrupt.
No, this is interactive, so ask away.
So I generally wonder, is it always a good idea to ensure that as many people as possible apply for a job? Or sometimes maybe it's better to have a more efficient process for the person who are hired, but also for the people who are seeking for jobs. Because, for example, in academia, say for a faculty job, it takes 3-4 days of work to prepare a good application. So maybe if you already know sort of your target audience, and then you have some dozens of people putting a lot of hours towards a job that probably they don't even have a shot for. So just wondering what's your view and what's your recommendation in this sense?
And your name was?
Igor.
Igor, thank you.
I think it's a great question, and it's one of those difficult questions, right? Because we do want to be inclusive, and we do want to make sure we don't exclude someone who really sincerely could do a job, that they don't see something that turns them off. But you're right, there's other pressures and there's other costs to a recruitment. And certainly in Rubin right now, we struggle sometimes with the length of recruitments, right? So there are these counter pressures about being inclusive and trying to get as many people involved, not only from the pool of applicants, but from the people that participate in the recruitment on the organization side, versus we really need to get someone going on this now for various reasons, or for the reason you said, if someone really isn't going to have a legitimate chance at securing a position, do we want to bring them in? Those are really important questions. I don't have any perfect advice. I guess at this point, I'm still on the side where I would err on the side of inclusivity and not excluding people, even if it ends up, for some people, it was an inefficient or even, a process that didn't lead to an outcome that they wanted.
Along those lines, I know, like our manager for the engineering group leans to bring in younger people, give them sort of the experience of interviewing, and even if they seem really shy or something, and then they end up feeling pretty good by the end, he says.
One thing that I'll say about that first question, when I read that and look at that, and I think someone brought it up earlier, is that a lot of times so many job descriptions are written, like especially when you look at gender, right, where a man will, if they have 70 or 60% of the qualifications, they will apply. They will do it. A woman will well, I don't have everything that they need, and they would second guess that, right? So when I look at that first, how, and like we talked about, it's like writing a job description that you see yourself, or you can actually, don't psych yourself out before you go through all the requirements but your point is right too. There's certain parts of it, the job description, that you want to make sure that the candidate has the right fit, but it's tricky. Yes.
Another thing I'm thinking of is when writing a job description and you're thinking about what requirements you want to put in there, maybe trying to discern between what you want the candidate to come in already knowing, and then knowing what they could be taught once they're already in the role. Because I think a lot of the times you think that that's a requirement, but when you really think about it, you're like, okay, this is something that we can teach them once they're already in the role. And that goes with skills, like, I don't know, abstract skills, but also like technical, like knowing how to use certain applications or certain platforms and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think one thing I learned from Amanda Bauer was that it's a good idea to write down in the job description, the responsibilities of the role, and candidate will do well, but not to start the evaluation in the job description. So instead of saying he needs to be expert in that, you might just say familiarity. Or if you don't even think that, just to make to remove that barrier when
yeah. Great input. All right. Any other input?
I think there are studies, and I can't point to any one in particular, that highlight that there are words that you use that will turn women off from applying for particular jobs. The masculine sounding words, or like cutthroat type of workplace words, that would turn some women off from applying. And so I think to get hold of some of those studies and understand that and maybe apply that into our job descriptions.
That's good.
Could help.
Alysha, you got that?
Actually, that's
I got it.
That's a good point, man, pal. And there are actually online tools that you can run job descriptions or job ads through that will help flag some of those things. I can't remember if we point that out in the hiring toolkit or not, but that's something we might add.
The other thing I would add is that, you know, we should be selling ourselves.
Yeah.
Right, more so than asking a candidate, you know, to sell themselves in that very first stage.
I think that goes back to the first comment that was made over there.
Yeah.
Talking about the community and
Is there a comment on this side?
structure or your name.
Oh, okay, I thought I saw a hand go up.
I think
Mary,
Christine was
that's Mary.
referencing Mary's earlier comment.
Yeah.
All right, good dialogue. I like the energy. So we'll move to the next question. Rethinking candidate recommendations. All right. This is a good one. How many letters of recommendation an issue of how many letters of recommendation issued for candidates? Thoughts?
Well, I guess they can be an issue in non-faculty departments because you kind of have to like get it out there that you're looking for another job and you may not want to get around that you're doing that. So you kind of have to maybe choose people who maybe not your best. I personally have never taken, no, actually it's not. I've taken one recommendation that was provided to me automatically, but of everybody I've had, I've never taken it. Gone on the interview.
I just want to make the point, just because I've been in this role for a little over a year and I was just fresh out of grad school. And so I just have this fresh perspective that as an early career person, it's kind of difficult to find people to write letters of recommendation because you don't have a very large network. And sometimes the role that you would like to go into, maybe you don't have any people that it's even relevant, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, because it's, you know, it's your first job and all you really have is like what you've accomplished in school or in your university. And so maybe the role that you're going into is not like super directly related to what you were doing in school. So I know that I've had that experience lately where, yeah, finding somebody to write a letter of recommendation is sometimes really difficult as an early career person.
I think you, Mary, you were there, and then we'll go here. Or I keep seeing out of the corner of my eye, but we'll go here first, and then we'll go to Mary.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an experience related to a reference. Many years ago, I worked for a company in Iceland, it's a drilling company, and they have this very particular way to get reference. And at the time that you pass through the second interview, they ask you if you have a person to provide a reference of you about a specific skill or experience.
Right.
So they before you provide the reference or the letter, they tell you what they are looking for in terms of to be the reference. So therefore, you was able to see and see people that could provide that type of that framework they are looking for. Well, that was more than a phone call, not a letter.
Yeah.
They just call somebody, say, you know Giovanni? Do you know him? You know, this, that? Yeah. Things like that. Yeah. So I guess it's not so bad because as you say here, providing a reference is very hard. You know?
Yeah.
What can I say about Alan? It's cool. It's a good friend. So
That's all I'm looking for.
yeah, so maybe it's better to address the reference, what the company is looking for.
Yeah.
To know about the candidate.
That's a good point.
Is Giovanni, funny guy? Yes.
Mary?
Yeah, this was something that was mentioned in the career pathways panel on whatever that was, Monday or Tuesday. That letters of recommendation can also favor folks who go straight through a traditional career path because you more recently have a network of people that you're still in contact with. So anyone who's taking time off, either between undergrad and grad, or grad and postdocs, or postdocs and some other position. If you go 3, 4, 5 years without talking to someone because you're no longer in the same office every day, it gets increasingly hard to ask for that letter of recommendation. And it's already a small network when you're in your early career, and it gets smaller if you take any time for a gap year or mental health or anything like that.
I have a slightly related anecdote.
Sure.
When I applied for the job I currently have, I provided some references, but the person I was applying to the job for knew that my PhD advisor had been an alum of the place that I was applying to, and he emailed him and asked for a reference without. And then my PhD advisor was pissed off that I didn't warn him because I didn't know it was happening.
Oh, wow. Wow. Like cold call, one thing that I'll say from my experience is, as my intro said, I've been different corporations. When I applied for this job, this was one of the few jobs that they required 3 references. And I'm like, and I've hired many years, and I know it's academia related because academia does that, but corporate, we have a tendency to put more weight on the interview and or reference, like background checks. And so it's different for me, but I think especially like meeting all of y'all, like having that extra step or having that integrity of the reference letter or whatever, it does kind of up your game, so to speak, to who you're working with or what they bring to the team. So it's just very different for me.
Here, it depends on the position.
Yeah,
like I'm a
that's true.
business manager, so when I hire finance people or admin, I'm not looking for reference letters.
Right.
I'm asking for references and I talk to somebody.
Right.
Just to double check.
Right.
But I think that it is sort of this academia thing where even for our engineers to get promoted, they have to go out and get all these letters to get promoted, each step of the way, and then that gets reviewed just like the scientists do. And I wonder about that.
It was definitely different for me. It's a good question. I think that some of the stuff that I know, especially my experience, some of the things that we've done traditionally just because that's where we've done it, that might not be, we have to really assess if that's value added. So I think that's a good question. All right, here we go, Sarah. I see your hand up, great. What would you like to contribute?
We can't hear you, sir.
There she is. We can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, do you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I don't have the video. It's late here in Italy where I'm located, so sorry for that. And I would like to say that the hiring process in Rubin LSST is important also in the context of international in-kind contributions. So different rules apply different part of the world. I'm located in Italy, and so as for example, in Italy, these are not requested. So maybe we should also think about some homogenization of the hiring process related to junior, let's say, because if a junior researcher want to apply for a position related to Rubin LSST, but located in Italy, in that case, they are not asked for reference letters. I know this is used abroad, so sometimes also I've been asked to solve for colleagues abroad, but maybe we should also think about the fact that different people will be asked with different documentation requirements, like the reference letters, if they apply in different parts of the world, and Rubin LSST is located everywhere in the world right now. So especially for in-kind contributions. We in TVS, in Transcend Variable Stars, already try to manage some hiring processes for people in Europe, and we noticed that different rules applies in different places. So just this was my comment. Yeah.
Thank you. Shugart?
Yeah, just wanted to add something to what Sarah says, because I also come from Italy, like she does, where it's not customary to write letters, or just is not part of the process. So what I was told when I went abroad is a clear recommendation: don't get any letter from anyone based in Italy if you have mentors there, because it's a cultural thing in that not being used to that, and not knowing how important it is, for example, to stress some skills of the candidate, or just, oh, it's the best I've ever met. And even if you don't say that, oftentimes the candidate doesn't get the job. So if it's more like an even sort of recommendation letter in which you balance 50-50, the pros and the cons, that's actually something can damage the candidate. That's what I was told going abroad. It's simply like how, like Sarah was saying, this homogeneity in the process just insert biases at different levels.
It's a good perspective. I never thought about that.
I have sort of the reverse problem where I have all these scientists who don't do performance evaluations well because they're used to writing letters of recommendation, which is, you know, just different shades of good or great or awesome, and not actually saying what the issues are, or feedback, or anything that's real, right?
Yeah.
So if the Italians could do good performance evaluations, because they're actually talking about reality.
Thank you. That's a good input.
I'll second that. I have the same problem as Christine with Slack. One recent search, the way we got around it, we realized that we needed, the search community needed some specific information, specific information, specific skills and experience. And so we didn't ask the standard letters of recommendation, but instead emailed out a set of questions. And we asked people to give their reply to the format. We got thanked for that, actually. The letter writers appreciated what we were asking, and they were glad to give that information and not have to write a flowing format. I wonder, I mean, I didn't think about it at the time, but I sent the same questionnaire out to referees for shortlists all over the world. And so I should go back and see whether there was some variation in the response from reviewers in Europe compared to the US. But it certainly worked well at revealing some key weaknesses of some of the candidates. And I think we made a better player at the end of it.
Great feedback. Oh, hi, Alysha.
I'm only doing a time check. I think just because of the richness of the conversations that have happened so far, I definitely want to try to preserve 30 minutes of breakout discussion. So maybe we can go through one or two more priming questions and then move on to the breakout groups.
Sounds
And
good.
you can, feel free to choose whichever priming questions get a reaction from the audience.
Yes.
Yeah, just to follow up on Phil, I think in terms of getting more useful references and getting more objective feedback, it's probably to have also even just multiple choice, like objective questions, the trait, and then people can rank like in percentile or something where you would rank the candidate. And I think this more objective kind of questionnaire maybe would help to get more useful feedback. And then a quick comment to what Mary was saying about it becoming harder for people in non-traditional career tracks to get references. I wonder if a system could be set up
where people can store references right after a job in some server, like, you know, we have the archive for papers. Can there be some sort of archive for references so that people who went off to do something else, when they come back, they can go, you know, request letters to be sent from the service to jobs that they're applying to.
Good suggestion. Okay, I'm gonna move to the next priming question. Let's see. Okay. How to define criteria for candidate selection. All right. What is the criteria you would use to be? What is the criteria you want to be evaluated on as a candidate? This is good. Very good. What's the criteria? If you were a candidate, what would you want to be evaluated on?
I think I'd like to see something about like grit or flexibility, because those are, as we've already said, you can learn many things on a job that aren't actually boundaries to your success. You could come in without the skills and learn them on the job if you have those sort of flexible mindsets. And I think it makes you a more attractive applicant to be able to do that, and probably more useful in the workplace anyway.
Great. I'm gonna jump in and say, from me, and it goes back to like what job we're applying for. But if you're applying for a manager or a people interactive role, I think that there should be some criteria for not necessarily a personality test, but you know, and the same thing happened at Intel. Like I see it here in NOIRLab, see it at Intel. We have great technical people, great scientific people, and they're in their management position. They have teams and they're managing people, but they may not be the best at interacting with people. Right? So for me, like it really depends on kind of the job that they're applying for, but then if there needs to be some kind of a assessment, if it's managing people or interaction with people, to be some type of criteria, some kind of form. And a lot of times you can do that in doing an interview, you can kind of figure out that too. But
yeah, I want to second your comment, and that gives us back to the job description design. So when the organization have a clear idea what they want, they will put in that, and as a part of the process of the requirement would be to evaluate what you say. So in my area, it's the same. I am in safety area, and part of our job is to provide a message to people. And if you are not a very good communicator, it will be very hard for people to understand what you are trying to say about safety and other issues. So therefore, I think when I'm looking for a candidate, my team, I'm looking for some of that, some skills for communication. Yeah, and that's fair. But it's also fair that those people understand from the beginning of the process that we are looking for that. That would be part of the process. Okay.
other comments?
I guess I'll add that, you know, I've been with Aura for almost 30 years, and many of those years, up until recently, I've been involved in quite a few recruitments, and I've seen the overall process evolve quite a bit. And one of the positive things that's happened, at least in the last half or the last third of that period, is we have gotten to, and I don't say we do this uniformly yet, that's something we need to improve on, but we have gotten to most of the recruitments do have an objective set of criteria that the committees are asked to go through. So I think that's really important. I think where we need to continue to improve is for each hiring committee, they need to really spend some time up front to hone the specific criteria, so that when we actually get to interviewing folks and reviewing them, those criteria do what we want them to do, which is to objectively assess people rather than have an open-ended discussion where people are talking about, feelings and what they think, where it's more easy for their biases to come out, whether they be conscious or unconscious biases.
That's true. That's a great point. This is reminding me of the thing I find hardest in this whole business, because I agree that we want these criteria thought about carefully by the search committee and written down, but also they need to align with what's in the job description, so that the applicants know what they're going to be evaluated against. Which means that the search committee needs to be involved in writing the job description, which leads me to my biggest problem, which is getting started early enough so that I can get the search committee to work on the job description and the evaluation criteria in good time for the search. And I feel like I keep getting bitten by this, that I don't stand up the search committee fast enough and then get them to help out with the job description with the evaluation in mind.
Yes. So a year ago, this workshop, I was interviewing for a job here. I think we're in that first interview. I really appreciate the candor about the organization. But I will say that that job description, when I read it, I knew what you were looking for. So I think, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but it didn't go into the weeds a lot. It's talked about an interdisciplinary team, and the first thing I knew, okay, management. We're looking for somebody to work with people, right, to bring the group together. Almost everything else is following. So I don't know what my point is, other than I think that was really well done. If we're going to talk about recruitment, it's a private question. I'll have to forget it. But it really did frame, I think, the high level things that you guys.
Thank you. Any input online? All right, Alysha, do we have time for another primary question, or do you want to go right into breakouts?
I think I would prefer to go into breakouts so we have enough time, sufficient time for summaries at the end.
All right. I will move to that.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, so those of you that, thank you for those of you that already contributed. This is going to be an opportunity for all of you in the room and all of you online to participate in the breakout sessions. It just so happens that we have 6 breakout sessions in the room, and then Alysha's going to handle the one online with improving the candidate experience. And we have 6 tables. Look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this table, and I'm just going to name the breakout session. And if you're interested in contributing to that particular topic, I will ask you to go to that particular table. And we did have the discussion. Hopefully we get somebody in every table, but if we don't, that's fine as well too. It's more important for all of you that are in the room to kind of give your input on what you feel like you can contribute in that particular topic. And we will, we'll improvise if we don't have enough contributions from other topics. So I'm going to start on this table. It will be how to write a job description. That would be this table. I'm calling table number 1 here. So if, after I go through the whole list, everyone that's interested on how to write a job description, if you huddle around this table, you can bring your laptop or whatever you need to do. Table number 2 here, rethinking candidate recommendations. So that would be table 2. Table number 3, how to define criteria for candidate selection. That's table number 3. And I will start back up top here. Okay, table number 4, which is one of the ones that I might join. Inclusive interviewing practices, if you're interested in that. Join this table. This might be a hot topic too. Salaries, table number 5. And table number 6 will be relocation. And as I mentioned before, Alysha will actually set up a breakout room for everyone that is online to participate in improving candidate experience. Yes.
That has more clarification. Should we join the table we think we can contribute the most, or we want to learn the most?
That's a good
So
question.
there are some that I'm not an expert at all, but I would like to learn about it.
Whatever, I would leave it open to you. I think, and Alysha, if you have any other input, I think my hope is, and this is my hope, that we get enough people at each table that even if you want to learn, that there'll be people there to help facilitate that. So I would say it's really up to you to if you want to join to find out, to learn more things, great. If you're a content expert, that's great as well. And just leave it pretty open-ended. And like I said before, we did anticipate we may not have someone for each table or each topic, and we'll just roll with what we got. But it's more important that we get your interaction, we get your feedback.
Sorry, I missed a couple of those. Could you just run through?
Yeah,
it again?
yeah. Yeah,
Oh, it's up there.
yeah, they're up here. How
In
to
that
write
order?
a job description here. Rethinking candidate recommendations here. How to define criteria for candidate selection here. Inclusive hiring practices here. Salaries and relocation. And Alysha, did we say 30 minutes? What was the time that we talked about?
I think there's only 35 minutes until the end of the session, and I would like the groups that formed to just have maybe a very brief 2-minute report out at the end. So
Okay.
should we say 25 minutes from this moment? Approximately?
Sorry. For some reason in my head, I thought we had it till 4, but you're right. We only have it until 2:30. Yes. So if you, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say quickly to the folks online that want to have join me for a conversation. I don't see how to create a breakout room here, so I'm just going to post my personal Zoom chat. I put it in the chat. Just click over on that in 30 seconds and we can convene there, and then we'll jump back into this meeting in 25 minutes from now.
All right. So we're saying 3:20, right, Alysha? Our time?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So if you have questions in the room, as far as what table, then I'll be happy to facilitate. And I will come around and also give you.
I think other jobs.
Just a time check, we got 5 minutes, then we wrap up.
Very shy person.
Do
Is it
the
because they
wrap.
don't write up together?
Other jobs for internships and other positions like.
Yeah, some of those
personalities.
personalities.
Sorry,
That one I did find out. Whereas not very much love it.
Really wrong.
Okay, now that makes the video. Founding member of the so we had, yeah, just naturally.
Yeah. But he's like, hey, dude, customize. You need this.
I think we have less levels.
But this. We have the best selection. So in some cases, we have to use both that and that.
Ways to set these to this. I'm gonna ask. Not this,
especially yeah, at some point, you are asking co-workers. Spend some time.
All right, let's start wrapping it up so we can do our report out.
Because it's something extra.
It's a really good. My job, but I.
Those be, you know, the dynamic. and Speed. Not easy.
For all my complaining, I will say like here's a welcome.
All right, Alysha, are you there?
Yeah, we're joining.
Yes.
Okay, we will start off with our report outs. As I mentioned before, Alysha's taking notes. I also want to thank all of you for your, I was actively involved in this group and great ideas. I'm sure it's the same way at each group. And I also want to thank Table 3 for stepping up and kind of rolling in the first topic, Table 1's topic, in with that too. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Alysha, you want to report out on the online first, and then we'll go in the room.
Yeah, I can do that. Sarah and I talked about improving candidate experience, and our initial reaction to candidate experience was just barriers in the application process. We talked a lot about how skills to write CVs and to write good resumes are not universal. And we talked a lot about how there's a lot of regional differences. I remembered having these resources available for writing CVs or how to apply, how to write a resume. These resources aren't widely available in Italy, for example. So improving candidate experience ought to think about how, you know, in the job call or in the job ad, we can confront these, confront this lack of skill set, or, you know, unequal skill set, and maybe either provide guidelines on how the panel will grade or will evaluate certain criteria in the job ad, or maybe in the application process, supplement CVs or supplement cover letters with specific questions that the applicant should answer that's based directly on the criteria defined by the committee. So in that way, we avoid hidden information that might, you know, be buried in in a CV that the panel looks over. But instead provides a very concise, homogenized, top-level summary of the candidate's experience and achievements. So we talked at length about that.
Great. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna go in reverse order. Start off with table number 6 that had relocation.
We nominated Bob as our spokesperson.
Oh, did you? Oh.
So we had a really fun discussion about the experience of relocation. We concentrate on the context of folks relocating to Chile, of course, which is not surprising, I hope, because of the activities going on there with Rubin right now. And, you know, I relocated there myself a long time ago, so I come with one set of experiences and expectations about what it was like, you know, back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Prentiss has lived all over the world and has different experiences, very valuable to understanding how it is for someone in her position to relocate, which she recently did. down to Chile. And Christine has been working with lots of Slack folks on relocation issues. And that's yet another aspect because those folks, many of them are coming down for the first time into a new environment. And also, while we are one observatory, bringing in folks from a different organization into that context has its own challenges. And we talked about many of the issues. We talked about many of the ways that things have changed over time where there was only one observatory and, there was really no line between the managing organization Aura and the observatory back then. And now there is, and there's multiple programs and there's multiple institutions. But rather than talk about all the issues we identified, one of the things we came up with that we think could help people's overall experience, well, there's a couple of things. One is we need to do a job as an observatory or observatories down there, or as a community of people relocating. Primarily, we're talking about the expats, but we're also going to rely on our Chilean colleagues who are there to build and incentivize the community to receive and actively help folks that come down there, take responsibility ourselves to help people through the gauntlet of many, daily life things that have to be done. Because we've been big enough and our organization just doesn't have the resources to do all the individual things they might have done in the past, right? But at the same time, identify those key things that we simply must have, documents and other things to interact with civil authorities in Chile that the organization has to provide. And then find ways to communicate. Rampal showed us there's a WhatsApp chat for expats or others in Chile. There's 84 people on it right now, right? So there's a wealth of information and support that can be had as long as we convey that and get people connected. And then the final thing I'll say, and I'll let them add anything else they would like to, is a lot of this is about the experience in Chile, since there's a whole history and people will see different things and imply different things from what they see and not necessarily what's still the case. Is, we as an organization, as a program, as Rubin, as a community down there, we need to help set the right expectations for folks when they're thinking about going down or they're going to take a job. Really, what are the things you can count on from the organization? What are the things you need to look for from your friends and colleagues there? And how things might have changed from the past that you might have heard about, but they're not the same as they used to be, because not only has our organization changed, but Chile itself has grown and changed in many ways that, would make it my experience if I relocated down there fresh now would be much different than what it was almost 30 years ago. You guys have
So one quick question, Bob. I know we talked about the WhatsApp. How would that connection be facilitated? Is it WhatsApp?
I think that's one really good way to do it. But I mean, the ultimate goal is to incentivize a sense of community within our folks in Chile, so that they just naturally, when they know someone new is coming down, they're going to be reaching out. They're going to be available if someone calls on them. They don't necessarily have to do anything, but if someone comes and say, hey, so-and-so needs to go down and get their driver's license today, can you help them out do that? Or they've never been to the supermarket before. They don't have any idea what to expect or where to go. Can you go down there with them and help them? There's a whole a whole set of issues about, finding an apartment, right? But there's lots of people who know how to do that, either directly at the observatory, or maybe they have a spouse or someone else they know that's connected and can help out. So it's really about awareness, expectations, and then just a willingness in us as leaders, incentivizing a willingness amongst our staff to be a real community to help out where it's needed.
It captures most of it. The only other thing I'd add is one of our engineers, Margot Lopez, created a PowerPoint for Slack folks when they're going down that has things like the WhatsApp, and I passed it on to them a while back. And so,
Alysha, does she have access to that?
Alysha, she may have seen it.
I'm saying, there's something that we probably.
yeah, and we just discussed the way to get people invested in thinking about that down in Chile is to have them sort of go through it, maybe beef it up.
That's exactly the kind of thing that will change over time, right? So Margot's done a great job. I really enjoyed reading through that and comparing it to my experience 25 years ago. 5 years from now, it's going to be someone else that's going to redo that whole thing, right? But that's the way it goes because you want to see it through fresh eyes, what's happening.
All right, thank y'all, thank y'all.
I'm so sorry, we have our poster presentation.
Okay.
Could we go next?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we were doing the candidate recommendations, and something that we were talking about was, like we were talking about earlier, it may not be possible for someone to get a letter of recommendation, and if it is required to have maybe 3 and someone only has 2 good ones, that may cause someone to get a third letter of recommendation that isn't as strong because it may have been last minute or from someone who they don't really know as well. And that could cost us someone maybe not getting the interview just because one of the 3 were not that good. We recommended perhaps maybe having like a range. And if someone wants to go over that range and kind of outdo themselves, then that's perfect. But it still gives like people a chance if they never had the opportunity, they still have a chance at least of getting the job if they're qualified. So that was one thing that we were talking about. Did you want to add on?
I think going off of that, like kind of having like a hierarchy of like which type of recommendation, like kind of being able to order them, like from the one you feel the most is like someone you've worked with like for years, someone who's like known you for a while, and kind of like be able to order that as a candidate. And yeah, I think like having a range, like 1 to 3 recommendations rather than having like at least like having like 3 recommendations required, like makes it a lot less stressful. Like you said, like when you're trying to find like that third one, like you're reaching out to professors from like years ago who might not fully like remember, you know, it's